Yeah, welcome back again. I believe now you have the application installed on your machine now. So I think we are here to go to the next step. All right. So what we are going to do in this video is we are going to at least um, create one application. All right, our first application. And in this application, I'm going to have it in two sessions. I'm going to have um, a PowerPoint presentation, just as I used to do in those previous videos that I've done, a PowerPoint presentation to explain or introduce what you're going to do bit by bit. Then we now escalate it to the development environment, okay, so that you get the underlining understanding of what you want to do, okay. That approach is best to me, because it wouldn't be like we are just jumping straight to the Windows the develop VB.NET Visual Studio environment without you understanding probably some of the basics in VB. Okay, so as I always say, this channel is not and just to come and just read something or just get a tutorial and go away, but it's not educative. Is we try our best to make you understand the basic things in whatever you are doing, okay, so that you can have a full grasp of it. All right, so stay tuned as we delve into today's activity. So if you are going to we're going to walk through some of the basics, variable declarations, some data types, and one or two few things. We will just do let's say addition of an arithmetic something. All right. Then we end there. Then we prepare ourselves for the next video, which is going to go into a bit deeper, introducing the conditional statements and the loops and other things. All right. So I'll end here. Then we meet on the other side.
All right. So, um, as introduced earlier, this session we are going to have it in two folds. Okay. So we are going to go through the theoretical explanation of some of the terminologies and some of the key things that we have to understand in Visual Basic Programming before we actually go to the development environment. Okay. So in this slide, at the end of the day, we are going to go through the basic elements of VB.NET, the keywords, variables, data types, introduction to VB.NET console, the variable declaration, the VB.NET code structure, and code implementation. So these are the outline for this very lecture, okay, or this very tutorial. All right. So the keywords. Um, okay, a keyword is a reserved word that has a special meaning and is used to perform specific tasks or operations in the language. Okay, these keywords cannot be used as identifiers such as variable names because they are already reserved language constructs. So what this size wants to mean is in the environment, in the VB.NET environment, there are some of there are some words that are being reserved to be used by the program, and those words it is a mandate for you to know so that you wouldn't try to use them as examples in your work, okay, or in your codes. So it is important for you to know all these words, and all these variables. All right, that is why we taking our time to go through these very points. All right, so examples of such keywords are the if. Okay, so when we're dealing with the control structures or the conditional statements, we have the if, we have the else if, and we have the others. All right. So the if here, so you're saying that the if used for conditional statements, the else if in conjunction with the if statement. So these ones, if you are declaring a variable or if you are using any um, user declarations in there or user define something in your project, you should not use these keywords, all right, because it will be conflicting, it will be throwing an error in your system. Okay, so just take note of them and be guided as such. So some of them are we have the else as well, we have the end, the for that is loose in the loops, we have the next in the loops, then the do, we also have the loop itself. We also have select. We have the case, the end select, function, sub, return, there are lots of them. Okay, there are a lot of the reserved words. So as and when we come across any, or when we start, we start the development environment, we'll identify some of them as well. Okay, the name itself is really a reserved word. There are a lot of reserved words in the language. You can also Google or search other places, make some field research about the keywords as well. So when it comes to variables, okay. So here we are saying that a variable is a name storage location in a computer memory that is used to hold data values. Okay, in other words, it's a fundamental concept in programming that allow developers to store, retrieve, and then manipulate data within a program. So if in your code, as you are coding, if there comes a time where you want to store a certain, or assign a certain data to a certain, like you want to store a certain data temporarily in your program, that is where we define a variable. We define a certain word, okay, or a certain container to hold that temporal data for you. And whenever you want to use that temporal data, you make reference to the variable, and whatever content in the variable will be used as and when you need it. So it's a fundamental concept in program that allows developers to store and retrieve and manipulate data within a program. That is a variable. Variables have a data type that determines the kind of values they can store and the operations they can perform on them. So, for example, in VB.NET, if let's say you want to store integer values, okay, the variable that you're going to declare, VB.NET helps you or allows you to declare the type of data, which is the integer values for that variable. If it is a floating value, the same way it's the VB environment allows you to declare the variable as, to receive only floating values, decimal strings and other things, okay, so on and so forth. So that is it about that. So the data types. So that data type that specifies the kind of variable input or the variable content. That's what we are going to talk about. So what is data type? Data type specifies the type of data that the variable can store, just as I explained earlier. So if you have a container, and the container, you have designated the container to hold only um, colors, all right? Or you have in your house, if you have a container, and that container you store only salt in it. You have another container that's a very transparent container where you store salt. Another one that's where you store sugar. Okay. When you pick the sugar container, all right, automatically you know that, yeah, this container is labeled as sugar, this container is labeled as um salt. Okay. So the data type is the content in it. Okay, the usage of that content in it is a data type. So when you pick that container, since you've labeled it as salt, it's going to hold only salt. All right. So that is the data. So if let's say you have a variable, um, let's say integer one or num1, and then num1 is designed to hold only integer values, you are going to define the num1 as integer. Okay. So when you have the container and you label the container integer or label the container salt, it means even if you mistakenly put sugar in it, when somebody picks it, the person will think that this is salt. All right. So as soon as you label it as what do you call it, as salt, you have to always keep salt in it. All right. So that is a data type. In other words, you're saying that it defines the set of values that a variable can hold and operations that can be performed on those values. So just as explained. So categories of data types, we have the value types and we have the reference types. What are the value types? So the value types, we have, for example, like the integer types, okay, whole numbers without decimal points. Example includes integer, short, long, blah, blah, blah. We have the floating point. These are all numbers, okay? These are all value data types. And you have the reference ones too. We have the string, array, object, class, interface type, structure type, and others. Okay, so these are the reference type. Okay, the two types of variables. Now let's come to the VB console. Okay, so variable declaration in VB is done in this way. All right, when you want to define any variable in VB, we have this. Sorry, we have here them variable name as the data type. So the name here is part of the reserved word. The as here is part of the reserved word. Okay, but the data type, they are also reserved words. Okay, but not the name data type. Data type here can be the integer, can be the float, can be the enum, can be the array, and other. Okay, so and over here, the variable name here is user defined. So when it comes to the description here, we have said that them stands for dimension and it's used to declare variables. All right, so the variable every variable will be I have to set a dimension for that variable. That is what it means here. We have the variable name. So the variable name here, the name that you give to the variable, allowing you to refer to it in your code. Okay, that is the variable. All right. So the data type here is the data that the variable can store, such as integer, string, boolean, etc. Okay. So in here, if you have a variable name as integer, it means this variable is going to contain only integer values. If you have it as decimal, it's going to have only decimal. But if you have it as a string, it's going to receive only string values. Okay. So the next slide. So here we have examples of variable declaration, right? So we have here name, age as integer. We have the name as string. We have name balance as decimal. We have name is active as boolean. Okay, and we are saying that in the example above, the age here is a variable type integer. Is a variable type integer used for storing whole numbers. Okay, integer values are whole numbers, the numbers without any dots or any decimal. Okay, and we have the name here. The name here is a variable of type string. Okay, used to store string tests. We have the balance here. The balance was declared as a decimal. So it's a value, it's a variable of type decimal used for storing decimal values, okay, or decimal numbers with higher precisions. All right. Then we have the is active. So is active is boolean. It's either return true or false. All right. So it's a value type boolean used for storing true or false values. Okay. So this is how basically we store or we declare variables in the VB.NET. All right, there are some examples that we will introduce, going forward. Okay, so the code structure, VB.NET code structure. So the basic code structure in VB is as we see over here. All right, so here you see at the very top of the script you have this import system. Okay, import systems, and we are saying that here is optional. Import statements are used, sorry, this one import statement for using external namespaces. Okay, we have the model. Then this model one here is user defined, so you can name this model any name of your choice. Okay, then you put your main procedure, the entry point of the program. All right, here's the main procedure. Okay, so here then you have the sub main. Okay, so all the logic, the main logic of the code is kept in here. So here you declare a statement, your code logic goes in here. So okay, then here is additional procedures or functions that can be defined here. So if you're dealing with sub procedures or functions, this is where you place them. Okay, so you can place them here or at the top here. Okay, then here you end the model here. So in VB, the most identifiable things that you have to observe, most of the things that you open, you have to close them. All right, so if we have an open model here, down here at the end of the program you have a end model. If they have the sub main here, you have to end the sub. Okay, the same way if you introduce an if statement, you have to end the if. The for, you have to end it with a next. Okay, and then loosen other things. All right, so let's see some of the descriptions, explanation of the code structure above it. Okay, so here we have import statement. That one was an optional point. We are saying that the import statements are used optional. Sorry, the import statements are optional and are used to bring names. What do you call it? They are used to bring in namespaces from external assemblies. Okay, making their type accessible without fully qualifying them. Okay, so at the import area you can import the input and output. You can import a whole lot of things, and that is what they do. The model declaration here, the model keyword. Okay, so you realize that here is using the keyword here. So module is also a keyword. Okay, import is also a keyword. Then here we have the model keyword is used to define a model, which is a container for code. Okay, models can contain procedures, functions, and variables. All right. In VB.NET, the model typically serves as the entry point of the code. So when a compiler compiles the application and it's running, when it gets to the model, you know that yeah, that is where that is the beginning of the whole logic that you've written. Okay. You have the main procedure. So then in the main procedure, you have the sub main. The sub main is the main procedure, okay, which serves as the entry points of the program. Code execution starts from here. So all the logic that you are going to use in your code, is kept in the sub main. All right. So when the compiler runs the application, when it compiles the code, all right, and the system is executing it, when it gets to it will, as soon as it runs, it will search for the sub main and start loading things from that side. Okay. So it becomes like an index file. Okay, so here is the index in the index part, the beginning of the whole program. So it will go there and now pick the instructions from that side. Okay, so say that the main procedure can contain variable declaration statements and calls to other procedure or functions. Okay, so in let's say in a third tutorial, we are going to make use of functions and other sub procedures, and we're going to see how we are going to call them in the main procedure. Okay, you have the code logic. So the code logic here, this is where the actual logic of the program goes. Okay, so and this is kept in the submain. All right, so you can include variables, variable declarations, conditional statements, that is the if else and the else, the loop structures, which is the while loop and the do loop, and for each and do and blah blah, and other statements to perform desired operations. Uh-huh. And you have the end sub. So in the code structure now they were top one, right? In the code structure, you realize that we had model, and the model had the end model, okay, and you have the sub main, and the sub main too had an end sub. In the end sub one and also I saying, so here we have end sub, and we're saying that it marks the end of the main procedure. Then you have the additional functions. So if you have several functions in your application, you defined it at the specified area in the code structure. Okay, so the end model as well. So at this point, let's see how if you want to display something to the user, how we write it. All right. So here we are saying that display message on the console. We have the console.write line, then curly, and they have the parentheses, then you have the double quotation mark here, then you bring your message in there. All right. So this is how simple we display something to the user. Then in commenting, we either bring the rem or the first the single quotes in front of the line that you want to code. Okay, at the beginning of the line that you want to code. All right. So here I'll end here and launch the Visual Studio application. Okay. So okay. So I'll launch my application from here. Okay. So when I click on it, the splash pane will quickly come. Then here I have some of the projects that I've created here. So let me just hide them all. Okay. Then now go to, so here what I'm going to do is I'll show you how to create a new project. Okay. So here I'll come here, open project or solution or create a new project. You have to click on this. All right. So when you click on create a new project, then this screen comes. So when this screen comes, you now have to go and search which application that you are coming to work with. All right, so here we have C sharp console, we have C sharp class library, we have C sharp this, we have VB console application. And this VB console application, we have here a project for creating a command line application that can run on .NET, Windows, Linux, Microsoft. So this is what we are going to do, VB console application. All right, so when I'll click on this, then now click on the next. So all the time, if you are dealing with a console, the console application, you have to make sure you select the VB console app. All right. But when you click on it, then you click on next. So here you give the project a name. Okay. So the project name, I can say hello world. Okay, then the location. So the location, if you want to change location, I'll change location. I'll click on these three dots. All right, then find a location. So select this folder. Okay, then I click on next. All right, then I click on create, and I'll wait for the system to prepare my environment for me. Okay, all right. So I have the environment. All right, let me increase there. And by default, as soon as your environment is set up, you have this hello world waiting for you. Okay, and here we just run this application and see what this one will load. This one, when you run the application, it should load. It should display the hello world in the command environment. Right. So I'll click on this. Then I'll have it here. So here you see, we have the hello world. So we have the hello world displaying for us. Okay, so that is a basic. So in the slides, if you remember, we saw the import system here, and we saw the model, and we have the name here, program. Okay, we can change this name to our name, the name that we want. Okay, we have the sub main, we have the arguments as string, then we have an end sub, we have an end model. Okay, so now if we want to, at least we have to declare some of the things, some of the variables, and see how those ones are also used. So when I clear it, let me give space. Then let me declare two variables, add them together, and display the results. Okay, so I'll declare them num here, num1 as integer. Sorry, as integer. Okay, then num2. So then num2 as an integer. Okay, then the answer. So then answer as integer. Okay, so what I've done is I've declared three variables. These three variables can also be declared on one line. Okay, since they are all integer variables, could have declared them all on one line. Okay, for example, I could have done them like this. Then num1, num1, comma, num2, then comma, then answer, all as integer. So the declaration could have also be done like this. Okay, but we can prefer to use the upper one or the lower one. Okay, the one on line is 10 or the one from line 6 to line 8. Okay, so let me comment the line 10. So in commenting, remember I told you you can prefix it with the rem and it will rem it off, or you can precede it with a single quote, and that one too will comment it. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll have to, um, assign a value to an integer value to the num1, num2, and the answer will now add the two together. All right, then display the results to me. All right, so that is the simple application that you want to do in this tutorial. Okay, so here, if you remember the declaration, um, declaring variable declaration. Remember we introduced the dim. Here is the dim. This is our variable name. This is the data type. Okay, so yeah, we are good to go. So here I'll say that num1 is equal to 35, num2 is equal to 59. Then here I'll say answer is equal to num1 plus num2. Okay, so at this point of the code, at this one of the code, 35 has been added to 59, and it has stored the answer in this variable. Okay, just remember the definition of a variable is saying that it allows the developer to store and retrieve and manipulate the data. All right, so now we have stored them here, we have retrieved them, and we've added them and assigned them here again. And now going to see how we are going to display it to the console. Okay, so here in displaying variable, we use, if you remember, we use the console dot um right right line, then we bring our parentheses, and the parentheses bring our double quote. Then we say that the answer is okay. So the answer is, you can give a space. Then we bring our ampersand. Okay, bring the ampersand sign. That is the concatenation. So if we want to merge variable to a string, we use the ampersand symbol to do that. Okay, so we bring the ampersand, then we bring our answer variable here. Okay, and that is all. We are done with our program. Okay, so this is a simple program that adds two numbers and display the results. Okay, this is a simple program that adds two numbers and displays the results. So when I'm done, let me go down here so that I have a full screen. Good, good. So here you see, in the PowerPoint presentation, I was telling you that when it gets to the model inside the sub model, when the system compiles this code, okay, and is executing, it will come to this sub main and now starts loading the logic. And in the logic here, this is what you have coded here. So this point line from line 6 to line 17 serves as our logic of the code, the logic. All right. So here we are saying that you should declare, we declared three numbers, which is num1, num2, and answer, then three variables, sorry, and all of them as data type integer. Okay, so we assigned some numbers to the variables. Then here we added the two. Okay, so here we are playing with the variable. So wherever we see this variable name, it's the system now assumes the content of the variable. So here we see num1, but it's not adding num1, but it's rather added the contents of num1 together and now assign them to this variable. Okay. But since we declared at the top here as the variable as integer, the compiler knows that the variable num1 is holding an integer value. So even if you bring dot something, it will still sum it up and use the integer component. It will display the whole number for you. Okay, it is going to handle the integer values. Okay, so now this is the simple application. I say that it should display the results, and that is what it has done here. So what I'll do is I'll quickly save the project and now run it. So I'll run it, then you see, so it has total the two together, and presented as the answer is 94. Okay, so 35 plus 59 is 94. All right, and that is what we have done. So this 6 to 17 lines of code is only producing this one line of answer for us. Okay, so this is a simple application. So in this tutorial, we've studied some of the keywords, we've studied variables, we've studied data types, and we've studied how to create a console application, write some codes, see how we apply comments, the declarations, and now run and test the code. So we have done this as we wanted to achieve in this tutorial. So we'll end here, all right? We'll end here and prepare for the next tutorial. Okay, and that one is we are going to play with the conditional statement. All right, I'm going to play the conditional statement in the loops and then loops as well. Okay, so see you. Be good. We'll meet you in the next tutorial. Thank you and bye bye.